Hello, welcome back to Let's Play Jane's Fighters Anthology as we continue with the quick mission showcases. So today we're actually just going to make another mission creator for this mission. And we're going to do it on the Ukraine map. I just want to see... Interesting, so they don't actually model any air bases in Romania. Well, let's fix that. Airport. And let's see, is this going to... That's probably not going to have all the extra buildings and stuff that the built-in airports do. Because that's not actually like one thing. They put in like control towers and stuff, and where did it put that? Is it just underneath this guy? Other. Oh, there it is. Airport 3A. So what we're gonna do is, yeah, we'll place these 5 miles apart, just so we can get a different look, and I'll figure out which one I want to use later. In the meantime, though, let us add the star of our mission here, the E-8C JSTARS. There we go. Okay. I was going to say, it's not actually letting me move those, is it? So, whatever one I like will be the military base, and the other one will just pretend is a civilian, but we are going to... Let's set ourselves up to 20,000 feet, since that seems to be the mainline altitude here of the last couple aircraft. We will be heading south, and our waypoints are just going to be heading towards the airfield we set up in Romania. And we'll add another one here at 10,000 feet. And we'll have... This is where I could kind of wish you could get alternates, but at least there I'll know about where the airfields are. So, with that, let's hop into the mission here. E-8C. So the goal with this mission is basically to simulate the missions that the E-8s have been performing in support of the war in Ukraine. Oh, right. Plus and minus. Alright, so let me turn that down so I don't deafen myself. As you can see, we have a full range radar, and it's got a bit of a green tint to it, which I assume that's based on something, but it always looked a little bit odd to me. As you can see, it's the same basic airframe as the E3 AWACS, but instead of the top mounted radar, we've got a bottom mounted radar. That's the little hump on the bottom there. So let's learn more about this invaluable aircraft that is just about as important as the E3 or the E2 in a modern war. Now, the Joint STARS concept evolved from separate United States Army and Air Force programs to develop technology to detect, locate, and attack enemy armor at ranges beyond the forward area of troops. In 1982, the programs were merged, and the U.S. Air Force became the lead agent. The concept and sensor technology for the E-8 was developed and tested on the Tacit Blue experimental aircraft. Prime contract was awarded to Grumman Aerospace Corporation in September of 1985 for 2 E-8A development systems. In late 2005, Northrop Grumman was also awarded a contract for upgrading engines and other systems. Pratt & Whitney, in a joint venture with 7Q7, will produce and deliver JT8D-219 engines for the E-8s. Their greater efficiency will allow the Joint STARS to spend more time on station, take off from a wider range of runways, climb faster, fly higher, all with a much reduced cost per flying hour. In December of 2008, an E-8C test aircraft took its first flight with new engines. In 2009, the company began engine replacement and additional upgrade efforts. Re-engineering funding was temporarily halted in 2009 as the U.S. Air Force began to consider other options for performing the JSTARS mission. But what is the JSTARS, you ask? Well, E-8C is an aircraft modified from the Boeing 707-300 series commercial airliner. The E-8 carries specialized radar, communications, operations, and control subsystems. The most prominent external feature is the 40-foot canoe-shaped radome under the forward fuselage that houses the 24-foot APY-7 active electronically scanned array side-looking airborne radar antenna. And side-looking airborne radar is often abbreviated to SLAR, S-L-A-R. The E-8C can respond quickly and effectively to support worldwide military contingency operations. It is a jam-resistant system capable of operating while experiencing heavy electronic countermeasures, and the E-8C can fly a mission profile for 9 hours without refueling. Its range and on-station time can be substantially increased through in-flight refueling. The APY-7 radar can operate in wide area surveillance, ground-moving target indicator, fixed target indicator, target classification, and synthetic aperture radar modes. To pick up moving targets, the Doppler radar looks at the Doppler frequency shift of the return signal. It can look from a long range, which the military refers to as a high standoff capability. The antenna can be tilted to either side of the aircraft for a 120-degree field of view covering nearly 19,305 square miles and can simultaneously track 600 targets at more than 152 miles. The GMTI modes cannot pick up objects that are too small, insufficiently dense, or stationary. Data processing allows the APY-7 to differentiate between armored vehicles and trucks, allowing targeting personnel to better select the appropriate ordnance for various targets. The system's SAR modes can produce images of stationary objects. Objects with many angles, for example the interior of a pickup bed, will give a much better radar signature or specular return. In addition to being able to detect, locate, and track large numbers of ground vehicles, the radar has a limited capability to detect helicopters, rotating antennas, and low, slow-moving fixed-wing aircraft. Radar and computer subsystems on the E-8C can gather and display broad and detailed battlefield information. Data is collected as events occur. This includes position and tracking information on enemy and friendly ground forces. The information is relayed in near real time to the U.S. Army's common ground stations via the secure jam-resistance, surveillance, and controlled data link, and to other ground C4I nodes beyond line of sight via ultra-high-frequency satellite communications. Other major E-8C prime mission equipment are the communications data link, COM/DLX, and operations and control subsystems. 18 operator workstations display computer processed data in graphic and tabular format on video screens. Operators and technicians perform battle management, surveillance, weapons intelligence, communications, and maintenance functions. Northrop Grumman has tested the installation of an MS-177 camera on the E-8C to provide real-time visual target confirmation. In missions from peacekeeping operations to major theaters of war, the E-8C can provide targeting data and intelligence for attack aviation, naval surface fire, field artillery, and friendly maneuver forces. The information helps air and land commanders control the battle space. The E-8's ground-moving radar can tell approximate number of vehicles, location, speed, and direction of travel. It can identify exactly what type of vehicle a target is, tell what equipment it has, or discern whether it is friendly, hostile, or a bystander. The commanders often cross-check the JSTARS data against other sources. In the Army, JSTARS data is analyzed and disseminated from a ground station module. The two E-8A development aircraft were deployed in 1991 to participate in Operation Desert Storm under the direction of United States Air Force Colonel Harry H. Heimkel, program director, even though they were still in development. The joint program accurately tracked mobile Iraqi forces, including tanks and Scud missiles. Crews flew developmental aircraft on 49 combat sorties, accumulating more than 500 combat hours and a 100% mission effectiveness rate. These Joint STARS developmental aircraft also participated in Operation Joint Endeavor, a NATO peacekeeping mission in December of 1995. While flying in friendly airspace, the testbed E-8A and pre-production E-8C aircraft monitored ground movements and confirmed compliance with the date and peace accord agreements. Crews flew 95 consecutive operational sorties and more than 1,000 flight hours with a 98% mission effectiveness rate. The 93rd Air Control Wing, which activated on the 29th of January 1996, accepted its first aircraft on the 11th of June 1996 and deployed in support of Operation Joint Endeavor in October. The Provisional 93rd Air Expeditionary Group monitored treaty compliance while NATO rotated troops through Bosnia and Herzegovina, or however you say that country. The first production E-8C and a pre-production E-8C flew 36 operational sorties and more than 470 flight hours with a 100% effectiveness rate. The wing declared initial operational capability 18th of December 1997 after receiving the second production aircraft. Operation Allied Force saw Joint STARS in action again from February to June of 1999, accumulating more than 1,000 flight hours and a 94.5% mission effectiveness rate in support of the U.S.-led Kosovo War. The 12th production aircraft, outfitted with an upgraded operations and control subsystem, was delivered to the USAF on the 5th of November 2001. On the 1st of October 2002, the 93rd Air Control Wing was blended with the 116th Bomb Wing in a ceremony at Robins Air Force Base, Georgia. The 116th Bomb Wing was an Air National Guard wing equipped with the B-1B Lancer bomber at Robins Air Force Base. As a result of USAF reorganizations of the B-1B force, all B-1Bs were assigned to active duty wings, resulting in the 116th lacking a current mission. The newly created wing was designated as the 116th Air Control Wing. The 93rd Air Control Wing was inactivated the same day. The 116th Air Control Wing constituted the first fully blended wing of active duty and Air National Guard airmen. The wing took delivery of the 17th and final E-8C on the 23rd of March 2005. The E-8C Joint STARS routinely supports various taskings to the Combined Force Command Korea during the North Korean winter exercise cycle and for the United Nations enforcing resolutions on Iraq. In March of 2009, a Joint STARS aircraft was damaged beyond economical repair when a test plug was locked on a fuel tank vent, subsequently causing the fuel tank to rupture during in-flight refueling. There were no casualties, but the aircraft sustained $25 million in damage. In September 2009, Lauren B. Thompson of the Lexington Institute raised the question of why most of the Joint STARS fleet was sitting idle instead of being used to track insurgents in Afghanistan. Thompson states that the Joint STARS radar has an inherent capacity to find what the Army calls dismounted targets, insurgents walking around or placing roadside bombs. Thompson's neutrality has been questioned by some since Lexington Institute has been heavily funded by defense contractors, including Northrop Grumman. Recent trials of the Joint STARS in Afghanistan are destined to develop tactics, techniques, and procedures in tracking dismounted moving groups of Taliban. Wow, this article is extremely old. In January of 2011, Northrop Grumman's E-8C Joint Surveillance Target Attack Radar System, or Joint STARS, testbed aircraft completed the second of two deployments to Naval Air Station Point Mugu, California, in support of the U.S. Navy Joint Surface Warfare Joint Capability Technology Demonstration to test its network-enabled weapon architecture. The Joint STARS aircraft executed 3 operational utility assessment flights and demonstrated its ability to guide anti-ship weapons against surface combatants at a variety of standoff distances in the NEW architecture. From 2001 to January 2011, the Joint STARS fleet flew more than 63,000 hours and 5,200 combat missions in support of Operations Iraqi Freedom, Enduring Freedom, and New Dawn. On the 1st of October 2011, the blended wing construct of the 116th Air Control Wing, combining Air National Guard and regular Air Force personnel in a single unit, was discontinued. On this date, the 461st Air Control Wing was established at Robins Air Force Base as the Air Force's sole active-duty E-8 Joint STARS wing, while the 116th reverted to a traditional Air National Guard wing within the Georgia Air National Guard. Both units shared the same E-8 aircraft and will often fly with mixed crews, but now function as separate units. Yeah, that's got to be confusing for them. On the 1st of October 2019, JSTARS ended its continuous presence in the United States Central Command areas of responsibility. The 18-year deployment was the second longest deployment in U.S. Air Force history. In that time, the crews and aircraft flew 10,938 sorties and 114,426.6 combat hours. On the 11th of February 2022, the first of 4 JSTARS of the remaining 16 operational JSTARS was retired as detailed in the fiscal year 2022 National Defense Authorization Act. The plane, which was the first to arrive at Robins Air Force Base in 1996, has now been transferred to the 309th Aerospace Maintenance and Regeneration Group at Davis Mountain Air Force Base. In late 2021 to early 2022, E-8C JSTARS aircraft deployed to Europe during the 2021-2022 Russo-Ukrainian crisis. 30 years after entering service, it was finally performing the type of mission it had originally been intended for, monitoring Russian military activity in Eastern Europe, which it did while operating over Ukrainian airspace until the start of the 2022 Russian invasion of Ukraine in late February 2022, at which point they retreated to operating just west of the Ukrainian border with various NATO countries, such that they aren't targets in the war, but they still have the range to look deep into Ukraine and provide targeting information for the Ukrainians that can be passed on to them, as well as various other forms of intelligence, and can otherwise support Ukrainians in the war without becoming a part of it. The Air Force began an analysis of alternatives in March of 2010 for its next generation ground GMTI radar aircraft fleet. The study was completed in March 2012 and recommended buying a new business jet-based ISR aircraft, such as the version of the P-8 Poseidon and the RQ-4B Global Hawk Block 40. The Air Force says JSTARS is in a phase of capability improvement and is expected to remain in operation through 2030. On the 23rd of January 2014, the USAF revealed the plan for the acquisition of a new business jet class replacement for the E-8C JSTARS. The program is called JSTARS Recap and plans for the aircraft to reach initial operational capability by 2022. The airframe must be more efficient, and separate contracts will be awarded for developing the aircraft, airborne sensor, battle management, command and control system, and communication subsystem. On the 8th of April 2014, the Air Force held an industry day for companies interested in competing for the JSTARS recap. Attendees included Boeing, Bombardier Aerospace, and Gulfstream Bombardier Aerospace and Gulfstream Aerospace. Air Force procurement documents called for a replacement for the Boeing 707-based E-8C as a business jet class airframe that is significantly smaller and more efficient. Indicative specifications were for an aircraft with a 10 to 13 person crew with a 3.96 to 6.1 meter radar array and capable of flying at 38,000 feet for 8 hours. In August 2015, the Air Force issued contracts to Boeing, Lockheed Martin, and Northrop Grumman for a 1-year pre-engineering and manufacturing development effort to mature and test competing designs ahead of the down select in late 2017. During the fiscal 2019 budget rollout briefing, it was announced that the Air Force will not move forward with an E-8C replacement aircraft. Funding for the JSTARS recapitalization program was instead to be diverted to pay for development of an enhanced battle management system. So, as per the usual, aircraft are serving much longer than intended because somebody can't make up the damn minds as to how to spend the money. But I have heard that there was still work being done on it, just not as fast. So, as opposed to the original intent of deploying such an aircraft by 2022, it's probably going to be closer to 2030, which is the expected end of life of the JSTARS fleet. Now, there are a few variants that weren't mentioned, mainly the E-8A, which was the original configuration in the test bed, the TE-8A, which was a single aircraft with the mission equipment removed that was used for flight crew training. There was a YE-8B, which was a single aircraft that was originally going to be a U.S. Navy E-6 Mercury, but it was transferred to the U.S. Air Force as a development aircraft before it was decided to convert a second-hand Boeing 707, one from a Boeing CC-137 for the JSTARS role. And then, of course, there's the E-8C, which is the production platform. And the Air Force is the only operator of the aircraft. As far as crew goes, it has a crew of 4, pilot, co-pilot, navigator, and flight engineer, as well as 18 specialists, and the crew size varies according to the mission, but many of these specialists are actually U.S. Army personnel that are specially trained to operate on the aircraft as opposed to U.S. Air Force personnel. Otherwise, the aircraft is pretty much identical as far as weight and performance to the Boeing 707, cruise speed of 390 knots, optimal orbit speed of 449 miles per hour to 587 miles per hour, 42,000 foot service ceiling, so a bit higher than what I was doing here. And you can see we're actually close to that optimal orbit speed at 446. Avionics include the aforementioned AN APY-7 synthetic aperture radar, 12 ARC-225 UHF radios with half-quick, 2 ARC-190 high-frequency radios, 4 very high-frequency radios, 2 ARC-210s, 1 ARC-186, and 1 ARC-201D, and 3 ARC-231 SATCOM radios. Now, this aircraft has been very invaluable for the Army and the Air Force, and even the Navy, in tracking ground targets. Okay, so here you can see the airfield I put down. As you can see, it is just the runways and the tarmacs. There are no attached buildings. Actually, I'm going to reduce the radar range because that should give me a better field of view slightly. And we're going to mosey on in to Waypoint Charlie, which should be the other airfield I put down, so we'll see if I end up liking that better. I think it was Charlie, yeah. And we'll begin our descent. Although it might not show up on radar, because curiously enough, it was showing up, yeah, there it is. It was showing up as an unidentified object. Yeah. I can't even get a lock on it. This looks like one of the Egyptian airfields, actually, with how sand covered it is. So I think we're just going to proceed to, since for a reason they didn't make a lot of airfields in Romania, we're just going to proceed to the runway over here. And now we are at about altitude. Let's see. I think we want to go this way. I like how I ended up placing it right on a road, so that kind of ruins the immersion a little bit, but we will fly around this Romanian city. Give them something fun to look at on a late Sunday afternoon. And we should be about lined up with the runway now, more or less. more on the side of less, but we can fix that. There we go. You can see it's got the same same general landing gear configuration as the E3 as well, which makes sense considering they're built on the same airframe. Whew. Wow. She really wants to go down. I will say that. Alright, I think we stabilized a bit. But boy, did and yeah, something like this I definitely wouldn't trust the autopilot AI dude, just because of, you know, the hill and the inclination. This game does not see hills very well, and I know there was at least one mission in the wow, we're at full throttle and we're still just like barely treading water here. Yeah, I do like how all the because this isn't like a pre-cleared area or in the game, we still have there's just trees on the runway all around. All right, we're gonna cut the engine It shouldn't take much. There we go. Heavy crosswind. I mean, not that heavy, but...
Welcome back.
There we go. And we are down. But yeah, I don't remember the E3 being that bad. You know, I think I had to go to like half throttle, but not, maybe even 2/3, but not full throttle, just the tread water there. That was ridiculous. Oh, they must have changed like the weight of this or something, maybe? I don't know, it should weigh about the... Yeah, even on the ground, we gotta go... We gotta go about 2/3 throttle just to move on the ground. Holy crap. I don't know what they did to the model here, but to make it act like that, but... Alright, so I think we're just gonna park there. We made it to the tarmac, and it's gonna look a little odd with all the trees nearby, but I think we can call it quits there. Alright, so that is the E-8C JSTARS. Not much else to talk about there, just an invaluable tool for the various branches of the U.S. Armed Forces and their allies, much like Ukraine is finding out right now, for tracking enemy armored formations and just enemy movements on the ground in general. You know, combine this with some of the electronic reconnaissance aircraft like EP-3 Ares or the RC-135s, or even some drones like the RQ-4. Was it the RQ-4? What's the big fancy one? What was it? MQ-4? Yeah, RQ-4B Global Hawk. You know, combined with those, it can really give commanders a very complete idea of what's happening on the ground and allow them to respond appropriately. And so with that, that will hopefully conclude our non-combat aircraft for a while. I know it's a ways down the list before we hit something that we haven't gone over before, so there might be a non-combat aircraft. I didn't actually look all the way through. I just saw it was like, well, over a page to go. But odds are it'll probably be a combat aircraft, hopefully. So we'll figure out what we're doing next time. But until then, thank you all for watching, and stay tuned for next time, and stay safe out there, and we'll see you then.